Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Talent Talks podcast. I'm your host, Paul Drake Verge, aka Pavlo Darasvitos Knushruk, and today we have a very, very important guest over here. So this is the show where we discuss the mental, emotional, and spiritual journey of entrepreneurship, and I'm your host. I'm the founder of Wild Outdoor Apparel and the co-founder of Talent Trails, where we specialize in helping businesses expand by sourcing top-tier international talent. Today, we're joined by Rebecca Lake, the visionary founder of Endless Abilities. Rebecca's journey is a testament to turning challenges into opportunities and empowering others to do the same. Endless Abilities, under Rebecca's leadership, is committed to enhancing the lives of individuals through the programs offered by Endless Abilities. Her approach is not just about providing services, but also about instilling confidence and independence in her clients. Join us as we delve into Rebecca's inspiring journey, her motivations for starting Endless Abilities, and the impactful work her organization is doing in the community. Rebecca, how are you doing today?
I am great. How are you?
I am fantastic. The sun is out. The cameras, the ring lights are recording. So I'm good. It's very good to see you. I think, when's the last time we saw each other, like in person?
I would say summertime. The that pink festival or whatever the heck that was.
Oh my God, that seems like that seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
I just remember that was when that whole trend started emerging, where everyone's doing these like little circles with the cameras.
Yes.
And I was just like, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm opposed to trends. I
agree.
You know.
Yeah.
It's so tacky.
Yeah, I agree. That was a thing. What was that called? That was
a roundabout or merry-go-round. Probably not.
Yeah, that was summertime, and now it's -8.
I know.
-10.
They don't know that yet.
Not fun.
The people don't know that over here. But
oh yeah,
who knows when this will be released? But yeah, so I remember the very first day I met you. We were at what was it called? Tilt? I think it was called Tilt. Yeah. It was in Toronto. And I remember our friend Krish, shout out to Krish Wajahad. You can put his Instagram handle too if you want. I remember Krish was hyping you up. She's like, you got to meet Rebecca. She's a business owner. She's doing a couple of things over there. I'm not going to mention until you do.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, interesting. And then I remember you came out. I met you. I don't know if... I think it was just you at the time. It was just me, you, Krish, and Cynthia. And then we just hit it off right away. We started talking about business and what you're doing and what I'm doing. I was doing the hats at the time.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, this is interesting. I think this is someone that I definitely want to keep in the network. And I think we also had like a work session after that.
Yep, we did.
We did, that's right.
We talked marketing.
Yep. And there's been many ups and many downs through both of our journeys, but it's nice that we reconnected now. And would love to get right into it. So Rebecca, as you know, I'm really going to be trying to figure out your thought process and how you go about business and how this kind of works. So I kind of want to start by going a little bit over your origin story and your influences. So can you tell us a little bit more about your early life or your childhood and any experiences or influences that led you down this path?
Yeah, so I think just to kind of, for starters, it would be best if I explain a little bit about what Endless Abilities does so that you can understand the backstory of why I am into what I am into. So when I grew up with an uncle who has Down syndrome. He's in his 50s now. Very close to him. He's my dad's brother. Love him very much. And so when I was really young, I started doing like camps, special needs camps and stuff because he was associated with the local community center. And so when I was young, if you had asked me what I wanted to do when I was older, I never really had a solid answer. I was into singing. I was a musician. I play piano and I sing. But my answer would have always been across the board, I just want to help people. Mm-hmm. So lots of things happened along the way from when I was 15 until now. And Endless Abilities is just something that I started with my business partner, Fatty. He is the BCBA, the clinician, which we can talk a little bit more about later on. But what we do is we offer behavioral therapy for kids, specifically kids with autism. We welcome anyone through our doors. We've also helped individuals with Down syndrome and other types of diagnoses. But as soon as we started it, it hit the ground. It was super successful, but the whole motivation behind it all was that we just wanted to help the community. We saw that there was a need. And so that's why we started doing it. And autism has been, evolving so much throughout the last couple of years since we started the business. And so we offer, a lot of people ask, is it a school? what do they come to you for? Is it babysitting? Is it respite? It's not. It is a clinical treatment center. So the kids will come to us sometimes in place of school. Sometimes they come to us and then they go to school after. But they spend a lot of time in therapy learning how to talk, learning how to, other types of communication, whether it be on an iPad or using, pictures to communicate their needs. They learn how to toilet train, how to regulate their emotions. Like we try to work on as many things as we possibly can to be able to help them and allow them to live, quality life and have independence. As you had said in the beginning, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said that. We take pride in it and we love what we do.
So if I understand correctly, it seems to me that you had this experience with your uncle who struggled from and maybe potentially when your uncle didn't have services such as this when he was a kid.
No.
And that kind of changed the trajectory of his life. And so did you see, like, did his struggle or the way that he had to behave in the world, was that like very impactful for you?
Yeah. My uncle, he had a great support system. My dad has always been, my dad and his brother and his sister have always been kind of there just to support my uncle. I'm lucky because my uncle actually, he lives on his own. He lives in a group home, but he has his own apartment in the basement. He is fairly independent. He takes the bus. He goes to work. He has a girlfriend. But I think for me, it was that learning. He's so unique, and it's learning about how he lived his life, and he's the happiest man I know. He's always so happy. So I just think for me, like, it's just, you perceive people and experiences, and so like you perceive people in many different ways. And I love being able to meet individuals who have a different story and live life differently than we do. Like, every person is so unique. Mm-hmm. So
I think what you said was interesting, how he's always happy, how he's always happy. So I think that now, me just thinking about Down syndrome in general, I think there might be a bit of a stigma or a bit of like pity thrown their way in terms of like, oh, that's so bad, so sorry. But I was watching comedian Shane Gillis. I don't know if you've ever seen Shane Gillis. I think he's like a partially Down syndrome comedian as well.
Okay.
And he was saying that, like, he's like, I don't know why everyone's saying that, because the people with Down syndrome always have the greatest time all the time.
Yeah.
Just all the time.
It makes you look at life differently. Like, I've had so many challenges as just myself, but also as an entrepreneur. And a lot of the times I'm able to kind of step back and realize, like, everyone has their own challenges, and it's the way you overcome them. And it's your attitude, it's your outlook. I try to be as positive as possible. My grandma, like my uncle's mom, felt very bad, like it was her fault that she had a child who had Down syndrome. But he's had such a good life, and he's taught me how to love my life and appreciate the little things in life and see the good in things. So I think, the ultimate lesson for me at the end of the day is whoever's life I come into, because obviously we have a lot of different kiddos that come to us, teenagers. I've got a lot of people that I followed them as they've gotten older, the kiddos that I've supported, the clients that I've supported. At the end of the day, quality of life should always be top of mind. And so if I'm able to make an impact in that individual's life to ensure that they are happy, or that they're able to do things, that's my biggest achievement at the end of the day, I think, is knowing that we've made a difference, and making sure that they're happy.
And I think I'm definitely going to get more into like how this works, how the framework works, how you go about like helping every single individual. But just before we go there, I would love to also know, like, so in the beginning, you're seeing your uncle go through certain challenges, and he's also influencing you in certain ways. Besides that, were there any early role models or mentors that you had along the way that kind of shaped your perception about your life?
So that's actually one thing that I would have said before I was lacking that. But now I look at it as a strength, or not a strength. It's like I didn't have many mentors. I bounced around. I was always in healthcare, but I bounced around to a lot of different jobs. I worked in long-term care. I worked with the government doing home care shortly before I started my business. I did the camps, I did respite, I did so many different things, but I never really had, because I was always working in bigger teams, and I supported a lot of the people on my teams. What I loved about what I did is I worked with nurses. I worked with I worked with business managers. I worked with administrative leaders and things. I just had so many different positions and different roles around me that I was able to learn a little bit from them, but I never had somebody mentoring me. And I felt like that was my downfall when I started my business, because I didn't have someone to go and ask their advice. So I had to start tapping into other resources. Got really into Brene Brown. Love her. I think I've read all of her books. And I just started to educate myself more, listen to podcasts. And then I started doing networking events throughout my career, just throughout the last couple of years. And I started to surround myself more with leaders and entrepreneurs, and they became my role models, I would say.
It's almost like, have you heard the the old adage, it takes a village to raise a child?
Yes, and that's exactly how I think.
It's like it takes a village to raise an entrepreneur as well.
Yes, yeah.
That's interesting. So there's a lot of people that had very similar experiences to you as well, I think. But I think where you differ is that something sparked in you this entrepreneurial flair, because there's a lot of people who have all these great experiences, but they become more entrepreneurial, or they advance more in their own direction or in their own careers per se. But you chose to, no, screw that. I'm going a completely different direction. So what was that thing that sparked you to go that way?
The kids, honestly, I since I was young, I always loved creating things. I loved trying new things. When I was 12, I created, back when paint was a thing, no Canva, none of that stuff, no Adobe. It was
Microsoft Paint. Yeah.
I remember, I was thinking about it on my drive here, actually. I created these little magnets that were Rebecca's housekeeping services, and I would do for landscaping and housekeeping. So I would offer to do their garbage. I would offer to shovel their driveway.
How old were you at this
point?
I
was 11 or 12.
Wow.
Yeah, and I still have them. I kept it in my little memory box. I wish I should have brought it.
Take a picture.
I will. I'll send it to you,
and then we'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah, let's do it. That's a good idea. Yeah. So I always knew that I wanted to create my own thing. When I started playing piano as well, I started to teach lessons privately. I was in high school when I did that. So I've always liked doing that. But I kind of went off board. What were we talking about? What was your question?
My question was, what was the initial entrepreneurial spark that ignited with you?
So then when I started in the field doing ABA,
What's ABA?
ABA is applied behavior analysis. It's the treatment that we offer. Okay. It's a type of therapy. So for people who are not so familiar, you also have speech therapy, you have occupational therapy, and behavior therapy is it's just a method. It's a way that we teach kids certain skills. So when I started doing ABA, I was a contractor. So in our field, back when we kind of started, contractors, or the behavior therapists, were more so contractors. Are you good? Everything's good?
Yeah, I just have to adjust your gain a little bit.
Okay, cool.
There we go.
So back when I started in the field, I was not an employee at the clinics I was working at. I was a contractor. So I had to invoice for the sessions I had. Being contractor is kind of
Oh, so this is kind of the beginnings.
It was the beginning,
because
yeah.
You're not...
I had to start to manage those administrative things that a business owner would, but very little, minuscule compared to what you really have to do when you get into business. So that was just how our field was. I don't know why, but that's just how, and it still is. There's a lot of businesses that have started that are ABA, private practices, that still have contractors. And so a lot more people come to us because we have a really competitive program. We have really good benefits for our employees. We've been around. We've had employees for the last 5.5 years. So we just stay away from the contractors because it's a little sticky when you have contractors. You can't do much in the way of either training, and there's so much to that. So when I started in the field, I was working full time in healthcare, government job, great pension, great pay. But I was at a clinic that I had actually found through my placement when I was doing school. And I was going to this client every morning from 8 until 11, then going to work from 12 to 8. I did that for over a year. And I realized...
8 to 11.
Yeah.
And then 12 to 8.
Yeah, did that for over a year.
12 hours, basically.
But I loved working with this kiddo. I mean, I can't talk about him on the podcast, but he was my first client. And it came with many challenges. I was literally thrown in. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't. I was new. It was my first ever client. And so I loved the challenge. I loved the relationship I was able to build with the clinician there, as well as him and the parents, the family that I got to work with. Learned a lot along the way. And then I realized, hey, I could start, I wanted to help more. Apparently I didn't work enough, 8 until 8 every day, Monday to Friday. So I started picking up respite, which is just, it's a service you provide. It's not, I don't like to call it babysitting, but you're going to provide relief to a family. So and obviously you need to have a little bit of experience, exposure to kiddos that have additional needs. So I started working with this kiddo, and the mom, I built such a good relationship, and the mom started referring me. And then from there I was like, hey, I could do something with this. We could have, and I say we because while obviously in the beginning I was thinking, hey, I want to start something up, early stages sat down with Fatty, who I worked with at that same clinic. We didn't know each other that well. We just worked together for, I want to say 6 months, maybe 8 months. And I knew that he was pursuing his BCBA, and I thought, you know what, I want to sit down, pick his brain, see if he's interested in maybe working together. Because in our field, you need a BCBA to be able to oversee programming, conduct, analyze the assessments, create programming, and you cannot implement it. I would not be allowed to implement any of the programs or any type of ABA therapy without him or any BCBA overseeing me.
Got it.
So I was still new-ish to the field. I've been in the field for 2-3 years when we started. And so we worked together with a couple clients, and we worked well together. We had the same type of values, same values. So we thought, let's start this up together. We decided, let's partner up, and we started Endless Abilities, and it was just hit the ground running from there.
So did you have a
location? It grew quickly.
Did you have a location to start, or how was the beginning looking?
Yeah.
What did the partnership look like? And did you learn any lessons along the way there?
Oh God, the lessons. If Fatty's watching this, he knows we learned a lot of lessons together. A partnership, first of all. So first we started out with, it was in-home services.
By the way, if you're cold.
I'm good.
Okay, good.
I'm good. Yeah. We started out as in-home services. So I would go to the therapist home or to the client's home. I was the therapist implementing the programs. He was overseeing, supervising.
And this is you're on your own now. Is it a separate corporation? How do you even go about starting a company in this phase, because I feel like it's very heavily regulated.
Yeah. We, at the time, yes, but also no, if you have a BCBA, you could do it. It's much more regulated now. I shouldn't say it wasn't regulated, but for us, as long as we had, his certification and me with experience implementing, we were good. But it didn't last for long with both of us doing it, because we got referrals very quickly as soon as we got our website up. Within 4 months, I was not with clients anymore.
And that makes sense, because I was thinking, how do you go about getting clients? But then I realized people who have these special ability needs, and they're probably friends or go to support groups with other people.
Yeah.
And okay.
We actually, you're going to find this ridiculous, crazy. We've never advertised for our services. Only advertisements we've really done is for really group programs and things like that.
Wow.
We've never, a lot of what we do, the chunk of the service, the primary service we offer is one-to-one ABA therapy.
It's so niche.
It is niche. There are lots of businesses growing. At the time, there was maybe 5 in our area. Now there's an abundance of ABA of businesses. However, it's so needed. Even with all of these businesses, small businesses coming out of the woodwork, we are still super busy. We've been around for 6 years now. So we've been able to kind of like build more trust in the community. We have a good reputation, or so I like to think that we do, but we do. And so for us, it's more so we got all this demand. So if we see other businesses coming up, as long as they are ethical and they're providing a good, like a quality service, we are happy to see them in our space because we know that there's such a high need. So we don't really look at them so much as competition. We look at it as we're all here for the same thing. We all just want to help others. So
you start the business, it's one-on-one usually, and then you start getting a lot of these referrals. What's your what are you feeling at the time? How's it going? Are you happy? Are you stressed? You're like, crap, what am I going to do now?
So I am a maniac. At the time when we were starting the business, I was also on a pilot project doing as a behavior therapist, first ever in Ontario. I was doing an ABA pilot with...
And remind me again what that is. Applied behavioral...
Analysis,
okay.
Yeah. So I was doing... I was applying ABA across... I think it was 6 nursing homes with individuals with dementia, in the geriatric population. We hadn't... There was... It was myself. Yeah. We were the first in Ontario. Myself and Erin. Shout out to Erin Davis. She's a wonderful BCBA. It was a 7-month thing that I kind of came from the last job I had when I was working with the government. I heard about it. I immediately, cause I love to talk, as you can tell. I was networking at my old place and I met the director of behavioral supports, in the entire Peel region. And I started to chat with her often, let her know kind of what I was interested in. And I introduced, the concept of ABA to her, and she was just like, wow, this is incredible. Can we do something with this in the geriatric population?
In geriatric, what does that mean?
It's just like elderly.
Elderly, okay.
Yeah. So when the position came up, they decided, okay, we're going to do it. And she said, hey, Rebecca, are you qualified? Can you do this? And I was like, well, I'm not a BCBA, but I can implement. And we just kind of wait,
what does this have to do with endless abilities?
So I ended up doing this pilot project where I was doing 20 to 30 hours a week doing consultations. Okay. Oh. Because it was to me, I was like, if I don't do this, this is such a good opportunity. I could be one of the first people to be, it was kind of like research, to be a part of this. I'd never done that before. So I'm doing this and but it was good because I had flexibility. So I was able to still pay my bills, but also grow. I had to pretty much multitask between managing that and managing my new business. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is going to be slow coming. It's fine. I can focus on this. How I did it, I have no idea. I don't remember that time because I was so busy. I was getting referrals for this program. I was developing this program, never developed before. And then I had parents who were like, hey, I want services. Okay, when can I come to your home? And I was going to their house to do the initial visit. It wasn't phone calls. It's a person.
You were going yourself.
Yeah.
You yourself.
Myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Myself and Fatty, we would do the intakes.
What's an intake?
An intake is just where you go and you sit down with the family and you get to know them and you see what their needs are.
Got it.
And see if you can help them.
So is this a very customized solution? It's not. It doesn't seem like it's a one size fits all.
It's not. Every kiddo has different goals, different needs. Every family also does too. You have to remember when you're going into treatment for anything. I think for this especially, not for anything, but for this, you're working with the family. It's not just the client. You want to make sure that whatever you're teaching them is being applied across all environments so that they're successful and they're applying what they learned, at home, at school, and all those things. So it's very personal.
I want to talk about something here that is underlying it, but I don't think it's mentioned often. So you're like you said, you're being a maniac. You're doing this new pilot project for geriatric care, right? Yep. And then your business is growing. You're doing all these intake calls.
Yep.
How did you prevent burnout? Or what was it that kept you going? Or where did you source your energy from to do that?
I will say this. I was 23 years old. I was 23. I lived at my parents' house. So I had a lot of flexibility. I didn't have to worry about many extra bills. Within a year, I moved out. Like, I ended up, moving to the city downtown, which was a huge change for me too. But I was so used to working. Like, when I was in school and in college, I worked like 2 jobs. I was always used to just moving. Go. If you ask anyone who knows me, she's always doing something. So I think the reason why I brought up that pilot project is because I had 2 very important things that could shape my career, right? I didn't want to neglect one because I wanted them both to be successful. And somehow I was able to manage the 2 at the same time. And the pilot ended at the perfect time because that was when we opened our clinic. Mm-hmm. So it was like just perfect timing. We opened our clinic within 6 months of starting business. Like, we needed space.
So basically, if I'm going to summarize, you're going to people's houses, doing these intake calls while you're also doing this pilot project. And just as kind of the business ramps up to such a phase, you finalize the lease or the rent and you got a space.
Yeah.
Cool. So now I want to kind of get into a little bit more. How does this behavioral therapy look like? How do you assess needs? How do you set expectations? And like, what are the goals? What are you trying to really achieve here?
Lots of different goals. That's a broad statement, broad question.
Well, I'm assuming quality of life. You're trying to improve the child's quality of life.
We want them to be independent.
So let's walk it through. Let's say we're doing an intake call. What are you looking for? Who are you? What are you talking about? Or are you just observing?
Yeah. So the initial call is, what are you looking for? How old's your kiddo?
But do they even know what they need though?
It depends. Sometimes when they're really young, like I feel like as a parent, coming myself as a mother, like, right, you're looking at your child and you're looking at either the kids in their daycare or their kids in their school or their class, or maybe your family members, maybe, nieces and nephews. And you're thinking, like, I very often, just naturally what I do is my daughter, she's got a cousin who's like 2 weeks apart from her. And she started walking before Ella started walking. And then Ella was talking a lot. And then, so I feel like as parents, we're always so in tune with, is my child meeting their milestones? Are they developing the way that they should be? Is she talking? Like, you're always thinking about if they're okay, if they're going to be okay. So,
and I guess you would be meeting with parents who really want the best for the child.
They do.
Because the ones that didn't, you wouldn't even meet.
So what it is parents may come to us and say, for instance, they can't my son can't vocalize what they want, and I don't know how to help him. And maybe that child is also very behavioral because they don't know how to express themselves, and they haven't been able to be, no one's been able to teach them how to express themselves, or maybe they have, but it wasn't successful. There's so many different things that tie into the business. Every child, every client is different. Every program we offer is different we have social skills, which is a great program that is for groups. Kids can come and learn how to socialize in groups and problem solve. And, there's just so many different things you have to think about. So when a parent comes to us, it's, hey, I have a child who has autism. Maybe they're just newly diagnosed. I want to make sure.
And what does that mean to be diagnosed with autism?
Oh.
What are the criteria?
So there's 2 under the DSM-5 model, and it's behavioral deficits, which can be a lot of different things. I shouldn't say deficits, but behavioral.
It's like just not standard for what the child at the time should be doing.
Yeah, so it's like
average.
Yeah, you have I shouldn't say average. You have social communication, where some kids may have, they may struggle to, maybe they're nonverbal at all, like they just can't speak at all, or maybe they are, but they don't know how to, like, they have poor social skills. Mm-hmm. A lot of, who is it that has autism? Oh my gosh.
I can only think of Shane Gillis.
Who?
I don't even know if he has autism.
No. Oh my God.
He's famous?
Yeah, man. What am I saying right now? Oh, it's going to bother me.
Is it a comedian?
Remember his name. No, he's huge. Microsoft. Like, who?
Bill Gates?
Yes.
He's autistic?
I'm pretty sure. I want to double check now that I said it. Can I
Yeah.
I need to make sure.
That's a pretty big statement right there. Well, Bill Gates, if you're listening.
Yeah. I hope you can cut things. Let me see. Well, you know that Elon Musk is.
He is.
Oh, yeah. You didn't, yeah. He's autistic. It's Bill Gates is thought to have autism.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But a lot of great, like very successful people, entrepreneurs do have autism. Mm-hmm. It's the way their brain works.
Yep.
It's crazy. So, yeah. I could talk. The thing with what I do, so my job does not entail me educating families on autism. That's Fatty's job. I'm not the clinician. So that's why I kind of stop myself when you ask about the diagnosis, just because I don't train my staff on the, ABA terminology or how to do their specific job as clinicians. That's not my realm of things. Mine is strategy, growing the company, financial, all things operations.
So you're not involved in the day-to-day anymore?
I'm not. No, well, I'm involved in the day-to-day, but not that day-to-day. I'm not involved in the actual core of the job, which is what I always say when people say, what do you contribute your success to? And it's my team, right? I'm not the one working with the clients anymore. It's been 5 years since I did. So if you were to ask me to start spitting out some ABA terminology and walk you through what a treatment plan would look like, I couldn't.
I would like to know, and I'm sure our listeners like to know as well. I want to know, what does it feel like when let's say you come in, you see a family struggling, and you design some sort of solution for them, and then what does it feel like to see that the child improving and to see them really taking on a life of their own? How does that feel for you guys?
Incredibly. I think the best moment is when a kiddo, it's sad, but it's when they graduate. Mm-hmm. And they move on and they don't need us anymore. That's an incredibly amazing feeling. I'm an emotional person. So when I had a kiddo who left, he had been with us since he was 3. And he was, I want to say he's maybe 10, 9? No, how old? Yeah, he was 8 turning 9. And he left. He didn't need us anymore. And he came to me and said, "Bye, Rebecca. See you later." Gave me a big hug. And I was so emotional that I wasn't going to see him anymore. But I was so, 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 so proud of him. Mm-hmm. I was so happy. And again, I don't give myself credit. I give, because I didn't do anything. My staff are incredible. They stop at nothing when they're with these kids. They just want them to be successful. And they're always evolving and wanting to be better. And that to me is the secret ingredient. So at first you were involved, but now let's zoom out a little bit. And now your basically role is to do more of the business side of it and to pick the right team members. Mm-hmm. This is something very interesting to me because, as you know, we're Talent Trellis. We help a business grow by building teams and sourcing talent internationally. So leadership of those teams, because things are going more remote, but I think the principles still apply, whether that be in-house or remote. So how do you kind of look for picking your staff? How do you manage them? How do you bring the best out of them? How do you avoid some of your own biases? Happens often. Lots of different personalities, different hands in the pot. We had the same recruitment and onboarding process for the last 5 years. Same questions. We never changed it. Same process. Sorry, I was talking away. We had I think 8 questions on the interview, and then they would do an eval after.
What's an eval?
An evaluation. Oh. So when they came in for the interview, we would ask them to go and sit down with the kiddo, and they would kind of shadow another therapist to see how they do, and then the therapist would say, "Okay, now you do." It's like behaviors. We call it behavior skills training. Mm-hmm. Well, we do that more so when they actually start, but they'll explain what they're doing. The therapist will explain what they're doing. They will model it, and then the person who's coming in to interview will then have to then do it themselves, and then they get feedback after. That's for us to determine, how do you engage with our kids, with our clients? Are you comfortable? And where are your skills at? Like, where are you at in your, like, just because if we have people that come to us that are new, they might crush their interview. They might do so well and get all the clinical questions. But then when they sit down to their with the child, with the client, they might not know how to implement or, perform the actual job, which is fine, but we can determine what we need to work on with them, what their strengths are and their areas of growth, right? So for us, over the last couple of years, we always kind of use the same thing. And then recently I decided to go back to school for human resources. So I also have added that to my list, or
You're going to school
list
now?
of priorities. Yeah.
For human resources. Wow.
Yeah. I have class tonight. So I did that because, my partner and I were kind of talking and trying to figure out what we were missing.
There's a class for human resources?
Yeah, like it's a university program.
That's a program?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I'm not a human resource.
Yeah.
Which is funny the way that I ended up.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
You never really end up when you think you're going to end up, so.
You don't. And to be honest, for me, it's being open to change and my partner challenging me as well to,
Fatty?
Fatty,
Okay.
to go back into school. And we didn't know kind of what our solution was. And then one day I was kind of like, you know what, we weren't having issues. We have a great team, but sometimes you'll have people who start and you think that, well, it's going to be a good fit. And then in a couple months, you're like, whoa, like this has not been going well. This person does not jive well, or maybe they don't have the clinical skills that we thought that they did. Maybe they're dishonest in their interview. So we decided, hey, if we want more quality staff, we want to get up to premium services, we need premium staff. So we've just kind of tried to educate ourselves more, and me going back to school has really helped. So we've completely changed our recruitment and our onboarding process.
And how does that look like right now, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so before, the way it was either I would interview and then they would go sit with one of our lead therapists, which is like kind of like...
And what are you looking for in the interview just before?
we're looking for somebody who has a background in ABA, and if they don't, they have knowledge of and they're able to learn, but also experience with this demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And someone who's passionate. If immediately somebody comes in, which this doesn't happen often, and you can tell that their motive is just monetary and they just kind of, or it's just, I don't know, I kind of want to do this, like complete opposite of what they're doing. But, I like doing this, so I'm going to do this for now until I go to school for music. Like,
and those are like kind of red flags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of people who come to us and they say, I want to be a BCBA one day, which is the clinic, like that's Fatty's title.
And what's the full name?
Board Certified Behavior Analyst.
Board certified. Okay.
Yeah. So we those ones are really willing to learn and grow. A lot of my staff are all in school, in their masters. And
you said you're fairly emotional, and I think I'm the same way. Do you think that helps you in like kind of getting the sense or the feel of a person?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how did you
gotta
deal
have
with
trial and error for sure. I've been like, you know what it is? Like, I have a business partner who we talk I was gonna say this in the beginning, and I kind of went off track, which I do a lot. A partnership is it's like a marriage. So if you don't have constant communication and good communication, which it took us years, and obviously it's still a work in progress, you can't really grow with each other. And so Fatty and I challenge each other and we give each other feedback. So if he had a bad hire or I had a bad hire or sour hire, whatever you want to say, we would kind of talk about it and think about, okay, well, how could we have dodged that? What could we have, but also our experience, he wasn't in HR, I wasn't in HR. This was our first time hiring people. We've had 100 employees, I want to say, in our 6 years. In and out.
So there's 30 now, or 33 you said.
Yep.
Right? But you had so you almost 60 employees that they kind of went through the revolving door.
Yep.
And it seems to me that this is kind of like a labor of love, a labor of passion. So what is the turnover, if there is a turnover?
It's not bad at all, honestly. I have staff that I haven't I'd have to look at it from last year. We use a system now called Humi, which I love. It's an HR system. I just kind of promoted it accidentally.
Humi.
It's
okay. We'll bleep it out.
Yeah. They're great though. But it gives us good stats. We're able to kind of look. I haven't really looked at my stats from last year, but I have the staff we just had one that just reached her 5-year with us, and we're gonna have our 6 year in March. A lot of our managers have been with us for 3+ years, 4 years, 5 years.
And why do you think they're with you for that long? Because like you said, there's many different clinics popping up.
Yeah.
So how do you retain them?
Well, we're very flexible. While things are kind of changing this year, where we're trying to kind of have a little bit more, I don't know how to say it. We're just trying to create new systems we want to scale. So in order to scale, while flexibility is great, especially for the managers, we still need to have we got to have some order, to make sure that like everyone's being supported. And for us, we've always been flexible. We've always been open. We've always been collaborative. Like we pride ourselves in also our transparency. Fatty and I sometimes will say, hey, did we say too much? Maybe we shouldn't have shared so much with our staff. We're open. We treat our staff as we should, as equals. I don't call, like when I'm talking to clients or I'm talking to other people, except for like in a podcast like this, obviously, I would refer to my clinical director as like a colleague. I'd say a colleague's going to be calling you. I don't like to talk about them like they're subordinates. You know what I mean? So I think it's just kind of the way that we approach our staff and the space that we give them to feel like they can be themselves, they can be challenged, and they can also grow. So if they want to come to us and say, hey, I want to go back to school, my availability is going to change, no problem. What can I do to help? How can we support you? And we also recognize that we could be a stepping stone for some of these people. They're not 100%. Always going to stay forever. And we want to know that they left endless abilities and people can think, where'd you come from? Mm-hmm. You're great. You're so good at what you do. Yeah, you were at endless abilities.
So perhaps this is a unique situation just because it seems to me that there is like a bit of a built-in infrastructural funnel to get people in the door. Like there's behavioral science and all this. However, and I like what you're saying in terms of like take care of your employees, make sure they're appreciated, all this, but and make sure that they feel like they're equals. I totally understand that, but at the same time, like I personally have had experiences where if you let that go past a certain point, and I don't think it's their fault specifically. It's just natural human nature. They're going to try to kind of chip away a little bit and see like, okay, how much more can I get with this specific person? So has this happened to you in the past?
Absolutely.
And how did you deal with it?
Absolutely. It's also another issue that has come up in the past, which I don't really deal with anymore, is like the age thing. Like I was 23 when I started my business. Mm-hmm. And I had people who were older than me with higher levels of education than me. So it's the whole being taken seriously. When you delegate something, are they going to do it?
So they were like looking down?
Yeah, it was more so like, well, you're going to tell me what to do? And so...
I hired you.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, it's having that open communication and saying like, hey, listen, we're very like, I got your back if you got mine. If you mess up or something happens, obviously like you have to have hard conversations. I am not afraid to have hard conversations and to say, listen, this was not acceptable and this is how we should do it in the future. Right. And that's kind of where you establish the fine line of, this is not going to fly here. Yes, it's coming from, they still know I'm their boss, right? It's just the way I deliver it. I don't need to be authoritative to get my point across.
How did you develop this will? Did you always have this kind of like strong will and know what you want and setting your boundaries? Were you always good at this kind of stuff, or were you had to learn it along the way?
I had to learn a lot along the way, especially with the boundaries thing. It was hard to not be friends with because like, I live and breathe this business, right? It's all I've really known for the last 6 years. So when I had my daughter, I was like, wait, I can't have another baby. Endless Abilities is my baby.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I just think that, when you're spending so much time, you want to develop good relationships with people. You want to have good friendships. And sometimes the challenge I've had along the way is maybe getting too close to my staff and then getting to the point where they're not either taking me as seriously, they're not as productive, efficient as I'd like them to be. A lot of the times what would happen, and this is like, I'm talking like 2-3 years, probably two years ago, maybe. I would have the staff, I delegate something, and then that person I delegated to would come in my office to come and like do it with me. And then it got to, my partner's like, hey, that's not efficient. Like, but it wasn't a, hey, I need your support. Can you teach me how to implement or how to get this project done, like how to get this done the way that you want it. It was like a collaborating on it to a point where it's like, hey, wait, this is supposed to take work off my plate, but now I'm doing it with you. So what's the point, right? So I had to learn from those experiences. Now I'm kind of like, this is what I need you to do. This is when I need it done by. If you need support, you know where to find me. And that's it.
So I have a perception that from our conversation of you that I'm going to share with you. It seems to me that you're very, as well as like emotionally intelligent, you're very analytical. Is this true?
I overanalyze everything.
So I'm wondering, as you're learning these lessons, are you documenting them? How are you integrating them? Or how do you make sure that these things do not happen again? Or is it more of like ebb and flow?
It's an ebb and flow. Honestly, a lot of what I've done has been trial and error. And a lot of what I do as well is reflection. I've done therapy for the last 3 years too. I really think doing therapy, I do psychotherapy. I don't do it as frequent, but I started doing that a couple years ago, and it made me realize just how important it is to understand yourself, understand your actions, why you do what you do, and also reflect on, could I have done that differently? Well,
ultimately, you will only ever understand another person as deeply as you understand yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And so what has that journey looked like for you? And what was the kind of your process, if you're open to sharing?
Like therapy?
Or your process, sure, of emotional development or therapy, I guess.
Oh, well, honestly, emotional development came from therapy.
And what have you seen as the result of that?
Okay. Well, confidence in myself, I will say that. But I have to give a ton of credit to my business partner. Because while again, it was challenging at times and it would definitely hurt my ego sometimes, if I didn't have his tough love to be like, hey, like, that was not cool, or I don't like how you did that, or this is how you're being perceived right now. While sometimes it was tough to hear it, it made me step outside of myself and realize, like, what employee is going to go to their boss and say, hey, you just made me feel like this?
None.
Like, nobody's going to do that.
None.
Or, hey, that was pretty, like, mean of you, or, you just made me feel like I'm not good enough. Like, they're not going to do that. So if I have my business partner there to tell me, this is kind of how this was received today, it's allowed me to just become a better person. And at the same time, doing therapy and talking about, even when I've been frustrated with him and I haven't agreed with him all the time, it's good to have therapy allows you to have a space with someone who does not know anyone in your circle, is completely unbiased, and they don't tell you that. Like, my therapist doesn't give me advice and say, this is what you should do. I talk my way to reach that conclusion, whatever it is.
Yep.
So I feel like that's helpful.
Guiding you, yeah. And do you think that, so it seems to me like you've had two, not going to say mentors, but say role models in healthy relationships. One would be your partner, Fatty.
Yeah.
Fatty.
Yeah.
And the other one is your psychotherapist.
Yeah.
Do you see a direct correlation between your ability to understand yourself and the success and growth of your business?
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it like 1-to-1, or is it, how does it?
It ebbs and flows, man. Like, some days I'm thriving and I'm just killing it and I'm feeling good about myself. Other days I don't have the greatest days and it impacts my work, but I realize that and I quickly snap out of it and I get back up and keep going.
And here's how I see psychotherapy personally from my very uneducated perspective. I kind of see it as a process of resolving the unresolved and releasing.
Yeah.
So I kind of see it as there's things in your life, your level of thinking is determined by, say, your emotions, or to new age, like the frequency that you're on, right? So I find that what therapy kind of helped for me, or other things, was kind of like trying to figure out where those unresolved things are and releasing them. So was this kind of similar for you? And when you are releasing these things, how do you feel afterwards? If this is the structure of your...
Yeah, I talk about it a lot. I need to talk about it, whether it's with my partner or like my life, whatever relationship I'm in, or if it's with my mom. I'm really close with my mom. I call her every day. A lot of the times I reflect on that with my mom. And I think just going through it and feeling it, and I've had to unpack some really, really tough things in my life that happened that shaped who I was. And I just think at the end of the day, it's changed my mindset and my outlook on life. And it's made me let go, just like what you were saying, let go of things that impacted my behavior and the way that I was going about life.
Mm-hmm. And I've had this like realization for myself. And what I've realized is, as soon as you start to perform better emotionally and you grow as a being, it's almost like the universe reflects it back to you right away. So for example, like when I'm going through a lot of stuff and I'm releasing things, first of all, for me, randomly, I get a very strong urge to start cleaning things. So like I remove things, I get rid of a life. And then it's almost like once you get rid of those things, you're allowing space for the new.
Yeah.
Right. So do you find that as you're progressing emotionally, is everything in your life like exponentially better, incrementally better, or is this not at all your experience?
I would say it's neutral. Like I think my every experience has been so different in the way that emotions have come up. And sometimes, and it's funny because some things, like I wear my heart on my sleeve. So some things I cannot hide, and I might go to work and my staff might be like, "Hey, you good?" And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And other days I'm like, no, you know what? I'm going through something right now. And I don't need to put a front up if I want them to be comfortable with me. Like I'm going to share a little bit of my life too, to an extent.
To an extent is the key word there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that realizing that in a workspace, whatever it is you're doing, whether you're the owner, whether you're a manager, frontline, whatever, we're all human. And there's going to be, shit's going to happen in your life and it's going to suck. And while I always say, leave it at home, yes, you want to be productive. You want to, still do a good job and be there, like be present when you're at work. Otherwise, don't come in. But we're still human. And it's if you're going through something, to say, yeah, I'm good, but like I'm going through a tough time right now. I'll get through it. Knowing that you have those people in your space that care about you, it helps me get through stuff and makes me feel like my staff probably value me a little bit more because I don't, I'm open with them.
So did you always have, because this is something that I struggled with, so I want to know from your perspective, did you always have a very strong support network? If you did it, maybe you even take it for granted if you had one before. Or did you build it up slowly? How did you go about building your support network, and kind of what are you looking for that?
When you're talking about support network, are we talking like in terms of like friends and entrepreneurs, or are we just talking about support in general?
Support in general. Yeah. And sure, friends and entrepreneurs, whatever.
My family is they're my rock. My parents are, they're the best. Like it just, this is how I am. I'm talking about my family and I'm like, I feel emotions just because I was raised by, there's four of us. I have three siblings. There's four of you. Yeah. And then I have my mom and my dad, and
girls, guys, both.
I have a younger sister, and older brother. And
okay.
Yeah. So there's four of us.
That's very similar to my family. Did you know that?
Yeah. I didn't know that.
I have an older brother, then a younger brother and younger sister.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you know what it's like to be raised in a big family. I was a middle child. You were a middle child.
Yep.
Yeah. And everyone has different, like this is another part of business, right? Like everyone has a different personality. Everyone, there's things that, I don't like about my sister, but there's things I love about my sister. But the one thing that I will say my parents, the way that they raised us was to always, always, always communicate with each other and always be there for each other. My brother lives in Ottawa. I talk to him often on the phone. And he's got 3 kids and he also runs a business. Like,
wow.
we prioritize connecting with each other because we value those relationships. So they have always been my biggest supporters and my biggest cheerleaders.
I think this is such an underrated concept for entrepreneurs or people in general, because I know for myself, I did struggle also with like, I would always like isolate myself or come kind of go more into myself. And it's like, you can't really do this alone. Mm-hmm. So I think building a strong support network and being really close to your family, no matter how screwed up the situation is, I think that's so incredibly important, because at the end of the day, that's all you got.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. And you have to be there for me, Mom and Dad. You guys have to be there.
You have no choice. What strategy? So let's go back a little bit to more your team management.
Yeah.
Your second family, your family away from family.
Yeah.
So what strategies or tactics do you use to ensure your team remains motivated and committed to your organization's goals?
Yes, that question. I would pass that off to the clinical team, only because I check in often with the team. The way our business is structured, we've got 4 other BCBAs. So Fatty is the BCBA, the chief clinical officer, and then we've got a clinical management team, and they're all BCBAs now. So we've got 5 BCBAs on staff. So he oversees them. They're technically our managers, and then under the managers are our lead therapists. So there are more seasoned, experienced therapists. They're like our supervisors that help our frontline therapists. So a lot of different steps. And so with having such a dynamic team like that with so many different positions, and because I'm not on the floor, I'm not doing the clinical and like that's just not my role. The clinicians, the BCBAs, the managers are the ones who are motivating and involving our staff. And I mean, they supervise. I think one thing about our field that makes it, allows us to be a little bit more, like have more oversight and support our staff more, is the fact that they have to supervise every week. So imagine it's like having check-ins with your manager, but it's very often. They're seeing their managers like probably 3-4 times a week minimum. They sit down, the senior therapist will sit down, or the manager, sorry, I have a lot of words, different titles. They'll sit down and they'll watch them implement, and they'll give them feedback. Now this feedback it's more meant for the child to make sure that the programs are being implemented properly so that the child is successful. But we're able to get to see what they're excelling in, and then the areas of growth that I've been talking, like they're able to they have more oversight. So the way that you were talking about behavioral science earlier, that's what we do. It's like, if you're a BCBA, you can also work as a consultant, or, they can work in sports, they can work in corporate. Lots of larger corporations will bring in BCBAs to assist with getting the team motivated and getting them to work more collaboratively. It's all based off of reinforcement. So they will kind of come up with different ways to do that. We do a lot of challenges. They like to I have a very playful team. Like they love to play games, make jokes, have fun with each other. But the one thing that I will say that they do across the board is they constantly reinforce and give praise when the staff has done something well. And then the feedback piece, we try to go in right after when something's come up that, needs work. Especially
since you're dealing with children, right? So
yeah.
Yeah.
The motivation can be hard though, because it's a heavy burnout. Like this field, you can burn out very quickly.
And how would that look like, or why? Why would that be?
Well, because you might have a caseload of kiddos or clients, I keep saying kiddos, clients that have high needs. You might have maybe the clients you have 3 clients and all of them are nonverbal and they're learning how to communicate, and maybe some of them, their behavior is self-harm. Maybe they hit themselves. Maybe they hit you. A lot of our staff take they have to deal with a lot with their jobs. They chose a career, right? So you have to have passionate people who are doing it, but it can be very challenging nonetheless. And they also do a lot of hours. So they're back to back with clients.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's not any, they take data, but the time that they have to themselves is minimal. Like out of a whole day, you're working like 7 hours, 1-to-1 with a kid.
And you're saying, and you said that, and I think this is part of what attributes to your low turnover rate and high, and your employees stay with you for a long time. But you're saying that they joke around with each other, they have a positive culture. How do you balance that? How do you balance like the positivity along with like, okay, but you can't really fuck up here?
Yeah, I mean,
and what leeway is there?
I think when you see your staff are being a little bit too chill, like, it's the constant reminders and oversight. Like if I see a staff member that's just like on their phone all the time during, we call it reinforcement. So when a kiddo is taking a break from their programming, they're able to play. And some of these kids don't always initiate play with other people. They don't want to engage with other people. So they're just sitting on the ground, either playing with their toys or maybe fidgeting or, engaging in stim. And the therapist is just kind of taking the opportunity to chat or to go on their phone, whatever. And that's when we kind of say, hey, listen, this is a great time to engage with your client and remember what we're here for, right? We want to make a meaningful impact and we want to use all the time we have to teach. So I think it's the values that we try to instill in our team. So we could be the type of people like, oh yeah, it's break time, it's fine. Like some providers might be fine with that. But for us, we're like, hey, clients pay a lot of money and like to come to therapy. And we want to make sure that their time here, every minute that they're here is going to be impactful. So I think it's just a matter of having a good training program, and also having managers who care about their staff's growth and their overall ability to do the job and not give up on them when it's challenging. When the going gets tough, you got to just keep trying. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. That's when it comes to Fatty and I, and we figure out next steps.
You mentioned something I want to delve a little bit deeper on. You mentioned that you want your team to basically be aligned on all your values. Are you cold?
No, I'm good.
Okay, good.
I'm groovy.
My toes are cold. That's why
no,
I think you're cold because you're not wearing. Okay,
my feet are up.
So yeah, you mentioned that you really want to make sure that your team is aligned on your values. So I would like to know, like, what are your values and how do you ensure that your team is abiding by them?
Yeah, we pride ourselves in, like I said, being flexible with families, offering quality care.
So what are the values? Just like if
dedication. Oh, I'm just kind of listing it all off. I'm just
so flexibility.
I'm expanding.
Okay.
Dedication. Transparency is huge for us.
Transparency.
Yeah. So
I'm going to take some notes too for my team.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, water break.
No worries.
And yeah, it's quality of care at the end of the day. And it's making sure that they're, it's also all in the way that you view what you're doing too. Like people, like if, I don't want to say the wrong things what I'm saying. I'm not going to say that. Fatty and I are doing this because we love helping people and we want to make a difference.
How do you spell Fatty?
Fady.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm also realizing the time that I have class soon-ish.
What time is your class? In an hour?
It's at 6, yeah.
Okay, maybe we'll cut it off in 15 minutes.
Yeah. It's just been such a good conversation, so it's been kind of easy. What was I going to say? Fatty and I are very dedicated individuals, and our biggest thing is we'll stop at nothing to try to help anyone who walks through our door. As long as it's in our scope of work. A lot of providers will stop at they'll say that they don't accept clients after the age of 18, but we will, as long as we, like I said, we're capable, and it's within our scope, like our practice. But the one thing we kind of say to our staff is, we don't hide anything from families. That's the transparency piece. If I am a mom and I'm dropping my daughter off, Ella, who cares if I say her name? If I'm dropping her off somewhere like at daycare, I'm getting reports from daycare to know, photos, seeing what she ate, seeing what she's doing. That makes me feel, yep.
They have daycare that does that now?
Yeah. A lot of daycares. That gives me ease of mind.
That's so, I never even thought about that. I remember back in the day in Ukraine, I was fed sour cream. That was it.
That's horrible.
It was Ukraine.
But that's a good example. We want families to feel like they can trust us and that they're making the right decision choosing us as providers. Mm-hmm. And that starts at the very beginning when they meet myself, Fatty, the clinicians, and as soon as they start therapy. So we have to make sure that our staff are competent, trained, well-educated, and experienced enough to be providing quality therapy to these kiddos, and also maintaining that transparency piece that we talk about so much, because there should never be a question of, what are you doing with my child when he's at therapy? Where's the progress here? What do we do at home to make it? There's so many working parts to it, but that's kind of a little gist of what we take pride in terms of our values. So I just want to circle back a little bit more to the value section as well, because I'm trying to do this for my company. So I'm just trying to understand, do you have somewhere on the wall your values, or is it kind of like they're free floating and you emphasize them? Is there any way, how are you I don't want to say enforcing them, but say implementing them? We often bring it up when we're having discussions, when we're talking about, scenarios or new clients are starting. Are they written somewhere? This is my first question. Is it written down? No, they're in our handbooks. And as soon as they start, so actually at the interview, at the end of the interview, if I'm feeling we're going to have this person move to interview number 2, I'll typically kind of walk them through a little bit about what our values are coming in, so that at least when they come in for the second interview, they know. But the orientation is a discussion. And in the orientation, are you telling them, hey, these are the actions we look forward to being in alignment with this value? Yeah. Here's this kinds of things. Everything ties into it. So our policies. Who does your training, by the way? You do it, but you designed it? We designed it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Fatty and Alessia would have kind of put in the actual content to it. Is it videos? I don't do any of the training. So we're actually implementing something where it's both. We do have a couple videos when they onboard, but it's in person. So they first sit down with me for the administrative piece. Then they sit down with usually Alessia, which is our clinical director, for the clinical piece, the training. And then after that, they do shadow. So they go and shadow for a week with our lead therapists who teach them how we do things. Got it. We're changing it. We're revamping it so it's even more content, a little heavier on the content in terms of what they're getting. So they would get a training package before, and it was a they had self-tests throughout the package that they would take it with them. But we were finding that wasn't really helping, because they were kind of teaching themselves throughout. Yes, they were sitting with leads, but it wasn't teaching them as well as we would have liked. So now we're doing something that's a little bit more, they follow more along with a manager. The manager's more, they have to be accountable, or keep them accountable in ensuring that you're learning. And then you get it after each section of the training. I don't know, each phase, they are tested. Mm-hmm. And if they don't pass, if they don't get 70%, we go back and we do it again. Or we determine how to proceed. Got it. Right? So we want to make sure that we test their understanding. Understood. Yeah, that makes sense. See, I'm trying to kind of apply it to my own business as well, because we're kind of in a unique, you're in this position where it's fairly standardized, I would say, what you're doing. And you're providing a very similar product, I would say, at the end of the day. Whereas we're kind of, we're taking on many, many different roles as people need, which I know eventually is a niche. We have to niche down. So I'm just trying to apply that. Okay, but that totally makes sense. So just more training and shadowing on the front end. Shadowing, and then also check in after their first week on the floor. Check in after their training's done. throw them in with the sharks, whatever that might look like for you, whatever your business is, you know, I'm saying in general, and check in after their first week. Hey, how's it going? Do you need anything? How'd your first week go? That you're going to get a feel for, yeah, hey, I'm struggling a lot here, but I know it's going to take time, or I feel really confident here. And then, of course, throughout their probation in the first 3 months, like, we check in again a month later. We'll do evaluations again to see where they're at, to see how they've grown, have those conversations. Because we've made this mistake in the past is when their probation comes up, if we weren't following them the way that we should, right, and checking in and making sure that their learning has been like they're not flying under the radar, then their probation comes up and it's like, this person's not a good fit, we got to let go of them. What opportunity did we really give that person if we didn't? Sure, you got training, but how much feedback were you given up until the time when you were let go? Mm-hmm. And if you flew under the radar, like, I don't know, some people, you don't really realize because it's a personality thing, and they might kind of like, it's like a fake it till you make it thing. And then the time comes and you evaluate them because it's 3 months and you're like, oh, you haven't learned anything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's making sure that you continue to you're in touch with your employees, whether they're newer or they're seasoned.
That makes sense. So you're basically much more check-in points.
Yeah.
Get a feel for them, see how they're doing, see how they're fitting in, talk with everyone. Great. I want to kind of talk about the business side of it. Where do you see this going? What are your plans? How are you planning to scale?
Fatty and I are trying to grow right now. We want another location. This is actually our second location that we have, but the first one, which we had for 5 years, they ended up demolishing, and now they're putting up these big fancy buildings. So we are trying to have, 3 locations by 2020. I wonder when you're going to release this because if my staff hear it. 3 locations by 2025, 2026.
This will probably be released Feb or March.
Okay. So I'll just be mindful. I'll be careful with
Well, I'll let you know, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you know. Hey.
Yeah, it's okay. It's good. It's good things. They know that we want to grow. It's not a secret. So I can't actually share too much about kind of where we're at, but our focus this year is to have the next location up and running. And
how do you pick locations? Are you using data to see where kids with needs are, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you do some surveys, you ask around the community, you look, obviously you have to do a lot of research to see, what is up and coming or what's already there. How long have they been around for? For us, we currently we're looking at somewhere that's still going to be close. You have to be careful when you go too close to your current location. That could be a real, like, it's good to be close because you have oversight and you have access. But at the same time, are you expanding and your business is like, are you really tapping into a new market if you go too close? Mm-hmm. So we're trying to find something that's still close, but is going towards a new city. Mm-hmm. So it's bordering our current place and the next city that we want to tap into, because that city has high needs. A lot of people come from there to us. So we're looking at our data and we're seeing, a lot of people come from this city. They drive 20, 30 minutes to come to us. If we put a location, plopped it a little closer, we're going to have those people coming to us.
Yeah, even yeah.
And then we look at, can we maybe take some of our waitlist clients and put them there? That's the biggest thing. Strategy is going to be different for every business.
You got a wait list.
We have a wait list. So for us, I feel more comfy myself, and I'm not a huge risk taker. My partner's more.
You seem like very much a risk taker.
Maybe now I am. Maybe now I am. But when we started and he wanted the clinic, I was like, oh, no, we're not ready. So Fatty had to do some convincing for us to do that. So going somewhere that we're going to be able to kind of have we have an overflow of clients that need support. So if we can strategically place the next clinic in an area that is going to tap into a new region, but also not be too far of a drive for the current people looking for services, we can just get it up and running. We're servicing, we're getting people off the wait list, and then we're also tapping into a new market.
Have you ever had the experience of an unsatisfied client?
Yeah.
And what does that even mean to them? Like, what does unsatisfied mean? Because I assume, like, it's very difficult to like set expectations, because at the same time, like, it's you, but it's also the child, and it's the parents' egos, I'm sure, involved a little bit too.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about that in a way that would be like appropriate for my type of business, just because I never want to put any families, like any parents, in a negative light. So what I will say is this: we all have expectations. Some might be realistic, some might not. And that's where, as you know, the clinicians, they've went to school for 7+ years. Like it took them a long time to get that certification. So they're not going to implement something if it's not clinically sound. And that's where we run into issues sometimes, because the parents will say, well, I want this. And they're like, we got to do this first to get there. And that's where you butt heads, because no, they can do that. Yeah, but ethically, I don't think we can do that. So that's where you butt heads in this field, I would say, more so.
I have a question that I was thinking about earlier. So it seems to me that your clients are primarily people with whose child needs special needs, and they're reaching out to you, and obviously they want to help their child. What do you think, or I don't know if you have any data on this, is there a percentage of families who are potentially can't afford their service or couldn't do it, and how are they getting any relief, or are there some government programs to help out?
A lot of our kiddos are funded through Access OEP.
Which is what?
It's just like the funding program in Ontario that the ministry
sets up for these types of cases. Okay.
So it's changed a lot through the years. It's evolved a lot through the years. I shouldn't say evolved. It's changed a lot. And so we're in a kind of current climate where the family gets to choose their provider, whereas before some of it would go directly to like the regional providers. So it gives them more autonomy over decision making and where they go. So I would say the kiddos that are not funded, the families will do anything. They'll work 3 jobs. They'll do anything they can to get their child into therapy so that they can be successful. And we do everything. Like we are very understanding, and Fatty will offer his services pro bono often. And we'll do everything we can to help families. If we can, we'll do it. And
I would love to hear, I think you already shared one, but I would love to hear another like success story that really moved you, that really kept the team inspired. If you could think of one.
Success story. There's so many things. I something comes up every week, honestly. Like kiddos will, like, I have to be careful in kind of what I share, just because
you can keep the names anonymous.
Confidentiality wise, like
you can change names and
there's kids situations. That a big milestone that you'll see on our reviews is toilet training. Like we had a kiddo who was at another clinic for like years and never toilet trained. He came to us, and within the first couple of weeks, toilet trained. That takes a huge load off of his parents.
Yep.
You're 8, 9 years old. Maybe a lot of kids come to us and they're older and they're not toilet trained. So parents might get to the point where like, I don't know how to do it. It's hard to teach. I mean, think about it. You're trying to learn a language when you're like older, like 12, 13, 14, maybe a little older. It's hard to learn languages when you get older. Same thing for kids when you're learning anything, every person. The older that they come into therapy, it's not more challenging, but your development's different. The way that you learn, right? So you might see like early learners, like little ones who are just like absolutely like killing it. They're learning so quickly and they're flying through their targets, and they learn toilet training, and like Ella learned toilet training in 1 day.
Wow.
That kid. Like every child learns differently though. Everyone reaches their milestones, and everyone has different strengths and we try to capitalize on their strengths.
What message would you have to say for parents who are still considering a service like this or are on the fence? What would you say to them?
Advocate, and I don't even need to say that because they do. Just never be afraid to use your voice, ask questions, advocate for your child, and only look for the best. Because that's all that even if you have to wait for the best, don't settle for I shouldn't say poor quality, but if something doesn't feel right to you when you go to see, just like, I mean, any experience, right? In relationships, when you meet people, if it doesn't feel right, and although you might be desperate to get therapy and to get help, make sure you if you have to wait, you wait for a provider that is going to understand you and meet your needs to the best of their abilities. Just don't settle. That's the biggest thing. Because a lot of people are rushed. A lot of parents are rushed. I got to get them in therapy right away. I want to make sure that that's understandable. It's just, we don't want them to waste their time and money on seeking treatment that might not be the most impactful.
That makes sense.
It has to feel right.
Want to be mindful of your time because I know you have class at 6 o'clock. Just before we leave, a couple of things. So do you have any final message to either business owners or entrepreneurs, or say even other women in your kind of position who were before, like about anything inspirational or whatever you want to share, which is the final with whoever's listening?
That's a good question. If it's scary, it's probably worth it. Like it's going to be scary at first, but then you're going to look back and think, I'm so glad I did that. No idea is too big or too small. Just go after it. And be open to, like, you just have to be open to change and to, like, I believe an entrepreneur needs to be open to evolving and facing demons or things that they may not have faced before to better understand. You really need to know yourself and understand yourself in order to be a good leader.
100%. Where can they find you? Where can we find you?
My Instagram is at bec.lake, bec.lake, but I would much rather, because that's just like my primary one, I would much rather that anyone who is watching this looks up Endless Abilities. Pride and joy, that is my number one baby. So that's just Endless Abilities Inc. on Instagram.
All right, Wajahad put that up in the video when you see that. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming out. I had a blast learning all about Endless Abilities, all about what it takes to take a child from A to B and with these kind of special needs. And I loved what you have to say all about leadership. So thank you very much. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I hope we can have you on again sometime.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.
That was good. That was a good talk. I really enjoyed that.
That was an hour, 22 minutes. Pretty good.
Nice.